Well, hello everyone. I have right here. I'm talking about time. When we do mention about time right here, can time also mean research? Can time really also mean is to where it shows somebody what you have whenever it comes to results, and maybe whenever it does come to anything that you're going to be working on necessarily. But yeah, I have right here is this what I went and drew right here is this example right here of yeah, this right here, these are supposed to be like students or just somebody working or something like that, but still, that what I drew right here, this right here is an example of a young man right here holding a backpack right here. So you have the backpack right here, but then in his hand he'll be holding a paper, and a lot of us will maybe 102 that you know you see that quite often, right? You see that quite often. That a lot of times it's like you're always 102 that whenever you do see that and you're like, okay, yeah, what is that necessarily supposed to mean right there? Whenever you do see somebody holding a paper and a backpack right there, and most of the time it usually means that okay, yeah, they got their hands full of stuff. Maybe if it's books and other supplies that they have, but I drew this right here. If this right here was supposed to be an example of a young man holding a piece of paper right here, and it sure seems that way. That whenever you do look at that, I'm like, I drew this right here. If this right here was supposed to be maybe like an example of a logo design right here, but if you see this right here, this paper right here, but still that whenever you look at this really carefully right here, that everybody else might even say too that yeah, the way you think about that in 102, that okay, yeah, especially maybe the portrait pictures that you're working on, that it's supposed to remind you maybe just a little bit of this was my idea, or yeah, I read it out of the books or something like that, or yeah, I did some research or something like that. So it's like, so whenever you do think about that, and 102 is toward it really. How exactly do you describe time? And everybody else would even say that is to where that yeah, well, time can be written down on paper right here, and so whenever you do think about that, it seems like that yeah. What does that pretty much mean is toward it that your left hand and your right hand kind of wobble around or something like that, but still. But it's like whenever you do think about that, you 102 that yeah, two people walking up on the sidewalk just like right here, and like let's just say that this right here was supposed to be an example of two people that they wind up walking up to each other and talking and all that, and that's why it seems that way to where that you know if you have your hands full of something or something like that, maybe if it's working on any sort of research paper, but like everybody might say that you know if you have a lot going on one afternoon, it's possible that you may 102 as to where that how did it really all begin whenever it comes to time, study about time. You're like, okay, yeah, that the things that you were working on for sure. Did it start on a piece of paper, or did you have a backpack full of stuff that you were working on that kind of what you call got brought that worked together though, or like everybody might say that yeah, that when we do speak about time, that about time though, that the way time is described right here is to where that by time that you actually were working on something and working on a paper or something like that, and that's whenever that yeah, so it's like the way I have it drawn right here and I have it explained right here is by the time that you actually start walking, and by the time you actually communicated with somebody else or something like that, from what you were working on, and but you see right here that with this paper right here, and if you could see this right here, that I drew this like if there was a paper right here, and like everybody say paper and pen or something like that, right here, and your 102 is toward okay, yeah, can time really be recorded on paper, or if it's all a matter of fact about that no, a matter of fact that time is actually based on how it's handled, and of course from the results, and also about the things that you were working on, right? And so that's why it seems that way, that every time you mention the word time, though, everybody might say that, yeah, well, it seems like there is a big difference between 5 minutes longer, or if you request it, or maybe it's if it's 5 minutes between time or something like that. So it's like almost like that whenever you do think about that, you're always thinking as toward, okay, yeah, 5 minutes between time, that could you possibly be working on this paper and maybe talk about any ideas and maybe anything that you were working on, really. So that's why that I kept thinking is toward I go ahead and sketch this right here, and do an example of like a logo design, just because that that logo is toward it. It starts off on paper before that you actually read it to somebody else, and that somebody else would agree toward anything that you had to talk about, something like that. But you see right here is that if I were to be using this right here as an example for a logo right here, and everybody would maybe think that okay, a logo design right here, that do you think that maybe something like this would maybe explain about as to where that yeah, this is how we met right here, that we were both walking on the sidewalk, and then that's how we were able to meet, and then that's how we were able to connect. I'm like, yeah, that's how we were able to start a conversation. And I know that a lot of times everybody might even say too that whenever you do begin a conversation with somebody, that most of the time that even if you're going to be approaching somebody, and let's just say that just right around the corner or something like that, but still, the way I have this right here is almost like if there's a hand right here pointing like this right here is noon, and this right here is morning time or something like that. So every time you do think about time, though, that does that necessarily mean as to where the two people are standing on the opposite direction before they actually meet each other and start talking about things? And I mean, I really don't even know if that's really the best example of whenever we talk about time. But let's just say if that was the case, that one way of how to explain that time, though, is that yeah, you think about two arrows right here. You got the left arrow right here that represents like let's just say that, yeah, that was midday hour, or that was midnight hour or something like that. So you have two people standing on the opposite direction of the time clock right here, but then you have this person right here holding a paper right here. And so every time you do think about that, then your 102 is toward it, yeah, that when we do speak about time, what exactly is it that we're referring to when we do talk about time? You hardly ever hear anybody talking about minutes or seconds or of any kind, and so that's why it seems that way. That if you want to kind of give that like a nickname to where that call it like maybe 1500 minutes or something like that, or maybe 5 minutes or something like that. But every time you do mention time right here, that it's almost like as to where that really, what is the best answer for time? And everybody might say is to where that, yeah, well, I think ideas sounds just a little bit better, to be quite honest with you, everybody, that, don't you think that maybe anybody would much rather hear about ideas rather than say hearing about time all the time? And so that's why it seems that way toward it. Yeah, you go ahead and start jotting down ideas about something that you're working on, and 102 that, okay, yeah, a piece of paper is a piece of paper, okay, yeah, especially if it's going to be a blank page right there. And so that's why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about it, by the way, that why isn't the lady holding a piece of paper or something like that? But still, that you 102 that yeah, you got right here time right here, as you're walking along on the sidewalk, and then that's how you met you met somebody, and that's whenever you start talking about something, and so it's like yeah, that whenever we do speak about time, though, yeah, time can mean forever, but on the other hand, that we're also talking about is to where that whenever we do speak about time, that anything that's going to be written down on paper, do you think that anything that's going to be recognized on paper is more likely it's going to come to the person's attention rather than, okay, yeah, that I had no clue what you're talking about or something like that. But still, that so I have this paper right here. This paper right here is supposed to be an example of the work in progress, like the work that you're doing or something like that. So like I have right there is the paper right there, and then the guy right here is a gentleman right here, and so like everybody might say that how does a story begin when we do speak about time? And do you think anybody would maybe say that I know how it kind of all started? It started by is to where that I was reading the book. I was reading the book before that. This work came to my mind or something like that. So it's like so whenever you do think about that, your 102 is to where really how can time really be explained? And it seems that way to where that everybody would say this to where that the best way of how to describe some source of time is to where that by the time you start walking and by like between 5 hours between time, and so it's like so in case if anybody were to ask me as to where that that when we do speak about time, by the way, that I don't think anybody really wants to hear a full week of time or something like that, or maybe a full month of time. So they would maybe say as to where that 5 hours should give you at least enough time, just to be able to get some stuff done. And I know everybody would say as to where that with a lot of logo designs that I've seen, from based on my experience, though there is a lot of things that you can get done in 5 hours. And in case if anybody's want to know too, that 5 hours, by the way, 5 hours is not really like So every time you think about time, time can mean forever, but still, that whenever we do speak about time, that whenever we do speak about time, that it sure seems that way. That there are some times to where that if you really are that curious, really to experiment around with something, then compared to just talking about it or something like that, or like everybody might even say too, that time can mean forever as long as you make it. As long as you make that time to where that you're able to get something done, right? And so that's why a lot of these professors might even say too that time as you make it. Yeah, time as you make it. So you got to make time. 5 hours, make 5 hours available. Make 5 hours available. So in case if anybody's want to know too that what exactly does that mean right there? Make 5 hours available. So it's like so every time you do think about that, by the way, it sure seems that way that make 5 hours available. Make 5 hours available right there, and so that's why it seems that way to where that when we do speak about the notes right here, and your 102 is to where make 5 hours available, and so every time you think about that, you're always 102 that okay, is that supposed to be a request for 5 hours, or is that supposed to be about it as to where that, yeah, I think I can get it done in 5 hours. I'm not quite sure. Or yeah, that I think 5 hours. Yeah, that would. So yeah, a lot of it. I think a lot of it is all about the uncertainty, right? You don't really know for sure about how long it's going to take. But the uncertainty. So that's why everybody might even say too that the best way of how to be able to solve, the best way of how to manage that too is knowing where you are right now, and try to calculate that from where you think you'll be within the next 5 days or so. And so, like everybody might say that time can be made available as long as you manage it properly. So that's why that it seems like. So that's why it seems that way. I'm like, yeah, uncertainty right there. So yeah, the voice of how to spell it. But anyway, yeah, uncertainty. I'm just for unknown, if you want to call it, unknown too. Unknown, but unless if you think, try to think about that. Think about it. Whenever you do talk about your goals and achievements, right, that everybody might even want to know too, that, of course, that you said 5 hours earlier just because that there is a difference between that you don't want to do something and compared to that you're trying to get it done, at the very last minute. And I know everybody might even say too that, especially at the very last minute. At the very, very last minute, that you're going to want to try to take care of something, and everybody would say that at the very last minute, oh yeah, of course, at the very last minute, at the very last minute. Yep, at the very last minute, of course, at the very last minute, you're going to go ahead and but in case if anybody's want to know too, that how often does that really happen to where that while you're working on something, by the way, while you're working on something, by the way, that something is going to come up at the very last minute, and let's just say that while you're working on something, and you'll want to know too that why do you think that maybe things do come up at the very last minute? Why do you think that maybe things come up at the very last minute? And that's why it seems that way, to where that, make 5 hours available of the uncertainty, of the unknown at the very last minute. So it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're 102, that, that, you got so much going on to where that you can't even, you can't even remember half of the things that you mentioned from earlier. And so that's why it seems that way, that, everybody would say that that every time you think about maybe logo designs or something like that, something like this right here, and you're thinking as to where that, okay, that at the very last minute, that your mind is kind of scrambling around, and you just you really cannot really remember all that's going on and maybe all that you were doing. So that's why it seems like that you were just walking around, talking to 3 or 4 different people about something or something like that. So everybody might say that, that you may write something down on paper, and then you may want to know too that make 5 hours available. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of people would say that is to where that make 5 hours available. To where you go ahead and make the time to make 5 hours available for the work that needs to be done, and so that anything that needs to be done, and I'm like anything that needs to be worked in process and everything. So it seems that way that it doesn't seem that difficult in a lot of ways, but like everybody might say, that I guess it's all about testing your mind to where that you need to think about what you're doing, to think about that. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know where you are now, then compared to where you'll be maybe within a week from now or something like that? So a lot of times, everybody might say that, do you think maybe a piece of paper would really explain it? Not really, but that piece of paper right there may be something that you can maybe say that that's like maybe one of the last things I can remember was holding that piece of paper right there, before a lot of the unknown of the uncertainty right here. It's like, yeah, last thing I remember was holding a piece of paper, and maybe 5 hours later, then I noticed that there was some work in progress. And so really, I'm like, anybody might even want to know too that any work that does get done, by the way, in your 102 is to where that it's really not that hard the way you think about it. Whenever it comes to agendas, that you're always 102. Then why is it that something seems to be a lot harder to where what it is, and then knowing that hey, you don't want to bother with it, or hey, I know what I'm doing, I'm about halfway done or something like that. So a lot of times, everybody might even say too that you think about where you are now, and then from where you're going to be going, and like everybody might say that you're talking to maybe 2 or 3 different people, and they might say that hey, time can mean forever, but then what do you call it to where that to make time, make time available for, so that way you'll be able to talk about it during the meeting, and then also anything else that you're going to be working on, because like they say that when we do speak about time, by the way, it sure seems that way that yeah, that time can mean forever, but on the other hand too, that doesn't anybody maybe prefer you to go say that you have an idea of what you want to use in general whenever it comes to work in progress? Like, and yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I carry a backpack right here. I got my backpack right here, but I'm just showing you here that with this backpack here, the backpack is where I carry a lot of the books and supplies, even my laptop right here, but still. So everybody might say, yeah, you got the backpack right here, but then you got this piece of paper right here. So everybody might even want to know too that you may have maybe a full month of supplies right here to where all the work that you need to do, it's all kind of stashed away in this backpack, but then you pull out a piece of paper right here and you show somebody as to where yeah, these are my notes that I'm taking for based on the work that I'm doing, and anybody who would like to look at the work, that they can go ahead and look at it, just by this information here. So really, I'm like, yeah, they say that it looks good on paper, but still, that when we do speak about time, though, that there is such thing as what you call as toward it, the time that you don't want to bother with it, the time whenever you were working on it gradually or something like that, but still, that whenever we do speak about time, by the way, and everybody would even want to know too that especially at the very last minute, and that pretty much means is to word that yeah, that you forgot all about that, and so that's why you were kind of scrambling around just to try to spend a couple minutes, try and like yeah, you weren't able to think straight during the time, and so everybody might even say too that it happens, at the very last minute, to where you are not able to think straight. You don't think straight. You don't think straight about things, and then so that's why it seems that way. That yeah, the things that you were working on from before, anything that you were working on from before, and you're 102 that at very last minute that you don't think that you don't think straight. So that's why that. It seems that way that's whenever mistakes are commonly to happen, and that's whenever that maybe not exactly everything was all done like it was originally expected, and so that's why it seems that way to where that yeah, make time available, make 5 hours available, and like everybody might even say too, it's really not that hard the way you think about it, but in case if anybody's want to know too that if you know of a better way of how to manage it. I'm like, yeah, 5 hours, well, what can you get done in 5 hours? And in case if anybody's want to know too, that, really, what can you get done in 5 hours? And everybody else would say is toward it, well, really, I can maybe think of a couple of things that I can get done in 5 hours, but maybe not everybody's going to agree on the results, but still. Talk about at the very last minute, yeah. So everybody might even say too that, yeah, that when we do speak up at the very last minute, by the way, that you would probably like to say too that try to make 5 hours between time. And in case if anybody's want to know too, that yeah, there is a big difference between the things that you're trying to do and the things that you don't understand that you got to do and all that. But still, that I put this together right here. This right here is supposed to be a logo right here, and I'll go and show everybody here. Zoom in right here, but you see this right here of a young man. I'm like, yeah, man, boy, girl, but still, it's like, you want to know too that just a little bit that want to know that hey, that that right there is supposed to be that right there is. I'm like, yeah, if you're going to be talking to somebody, but still. Really, that whenever you're talking with somebody, it sure seems that way. You start a conversation with them a lot of times, right? And a lot of times it's like, you got a piece of paper right here that shows some results of any ideas that you were thinking about from earlier. And you were thinking too as to where I actually remember just a little bit better if I'm able to write down some of those ideas. And in case if anybody's want to know too, that's one way, of course, about how to refreshen your memory, right? Is a lot of times is if you write down, the ideas. You write them down, and but still, if you got a lot going on, especially that afternoon or so, of course, you may forget about what you were doing that morning or something like that, but it sure seems that way that when we do speak about time, though, that yeah, time can mean forever, like I mentioned before, but then also that everybody might even want to know too that what do you call it whenever people say time is yours? The time is yours, and yeah, I guess a lot of people would say that's called free time. But still, yeah, time is yours. So really, why do you think anybody would say that in general? Time is yours. Yeah, time is yours, but you just got to manage it properly. Yeah, time is yours, and so in case if anybody's want to know too, that whenever you do see that, by the way, and like let's just say if this was a logo designed of any kind, and you want to know too is to where okay, yeah, time is yours, and everybody might even want to know too that whenever you use that word and phrase to where time is yours. I think everybody might even say too that they feel a little bit less pressure and less anxiety whenever they read that, right? If they have an idea about what they want to work with for sure, they might even say that that can maybe boost your brain power to where you can actually concentrate a little bit better whenever you say that. Time is yours whenever they have a few ideas of what they want to work with. Then compared to okay, yeah, well you have 1 week to do that or something like that, but. So yeah, so every time you do think about that, you always want to know too that yeah, you see things that maybe like yeah, you have an idea of what you want to work with and all that, but still, everybody might want to know too that that don't you think that maybe that you could maybe say time is yours, so that way you could be yeah, somebody would maybe think about that is toward it that don't get so hard on time. Think about time as to where they open your mind to some new ideas to where you can get them down, write down your ideas on paper, and so that way you can communicate with this person, and so that way you can talk to them about anything that you have in mind about what you want to work with, right? And so that's why it seems that way to where that every time you do think about that, you mention about time, well, can time really be managed properly to where you have enough time to take care of other things that you were hoping to be able to take care of and all that? But still, it's like, every time you do think about that, and, really, how often does anybody really say time is yours? And a lot of times you always want to know too, what does that even mean? Well, that means is to where that time is set for your ability to where you can think more clearly about anything that comes to your mind, and to where that people are able to get a better idea of what they have to work with and what's soon to come. What's soon to come. And so maybe that a lot of times people may say that if you use the word time is yours on a journal or anything else that you're going to be working with, and let's just say that if you say time is yours, then don't you think that would kind of open your mind just a little bit more clearly than compared to okay, a lot of the uncertainty at the very last minute or something like that. So I guess that's one part of the brain that I guess it doesn't want to function or so. But let's just say that if everybody were to say that time is yours usually works. So if you were to say time is yours, and if you're going to be talking with somebody, and everybody might say that, yeah, you do. You start remembering things that you didn't realize that you could remember just because that you said, the time is yours. Time is yours kind of put in a positive mind thinking too. It's more like a positive mind thinking to where you're able to think straight a little bit more clearly about the things that you were talking about from earlier. And so that is why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about that and you're 102, that, really, it's really not that hard the way you think about it. And every time you do think about it and you're always 102, that, did it start out by just holding a piece of paper or just by having a conversation with somebody? Or everybody might even say is to where it really doesn't really need to be managed properly. But anyway, I thought I'd go and show everybody here this logo design right here, talk about for time. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a good day.